again, everyone. We're the highest tier pod here, weekly unfiltered wrestling and entertainment. Welcome to the World Elite Podcast, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. I'm Marcus, and I'm joined with my co-host Dylan. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's just too hot. That time's coming. Everyone's happy about it, and happy Mother's Day. Happy late Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I know we didn't give no Mother's Day shout out on our last show, but hope everyone had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend. But we got a special show for you guys tonight. It's been about a year since we did an interview with someone, especially that was with WWE in the past. But we got a very special guest on today. I mean, if you've known him over the years, you could call him the Punisher. You could call him Recon. You can call him Stud. You can call him B Square or B2. But we've all known him as one particular name. Please welcome former WWE Tag Team Champion Bull Buchanan. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, guys. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good.
Very good. Well, thank you again for joining us. I mean, it's always nice when we can get some former WWE talent or any other promotion on that comes to share their stories about their times in wrestling and tell us a little bit about what they got going on and want to answer the questions people would want to know. So we're going to keep it nice and sweet. We got a series of questions we'd like to ask you, and I'm going to hand it off to Dylan first. And when you're ready, man, take it away.
So I'm going to start off with one of the most softball generic questions that any interviewer can ask a wrestler, but it's always nice to get a different answer from their perspective. So what made you want to become a wrestler whenever it was time to pick an occupation as to what you wanted to do with your life?
I started watching wrestling when I was a kid, and I fell in love with it. And through the years of watching it, growing up, being a teenager, I was a big kid. I was into athletics, and I just thought, what a way to make a living if I could somehow figure out how to get into it. And so everything I did past about 12, 13 years old was indirectly or directly trying to figure out my way into the business. I started going to the gym, get as big as I could, and watched as many tapes as I could. I early on, when the people were trading tapes, I was doing that too. I got kind of in on the ground floor of that, so I got to see a lot of different wrestling. I got to see some wrestling from Europe, from Japan. So I just set my mind to it. I just thought it would be a great way to look like a fun way to make a living. I thought watching videos of Tommy Rich and those guys, traveling, in the sports cars and everything. I said, man, it's got to be like living like a rock star. And, to an extent it was. But yeah, that's, I just made up my mind I was going to figure out a way into it. And I did. And I was off and running.
Yeah. So whenever I got first into wrestling was like the early 2000s. And when I first noticed you, you were a member of a faction as a kid I was not the biggest fan of, because y'all were trying to cancel all the fun stuff, all the stuff that people love, the hardcore wrestling and whatnot. And that, of course, was right to Censor.
Right.
Now, the fans over time on websites, on interviews, podcasts, whatnot, they have given their sort of take on right to Censor. Some loved it, some hated it. But I want a perspective from someone who was in it. Just like yourself. Now, who had the best reaction to whenever they found out they were joining Right to Censor, and who had the worst? And if you don't fall into that category, then what was your reaction as well with the other two?
My reaction was actually great, because I knew I'd gotten to be friends with Stevie, and I was kind of floating. I was working singles. They just broke me off from Boss Man, and I was working singles, and he told me what it was what it was about, and I thought it would definitely get some heat, and if they gave it a decent run, which they did, we'd get some traction with it. I don't know. I really don't know what Ivory and Val's reaction. I mean, I don't think Val was just tickled to death about it, but I mean. And I know where you're going. The worst reaction was Godfather, and I actually got to witness that from kind of around the corner. I saw Vince trying to convince him it was a good idea, and I watched that with my own eyes. but everybody jumped in. Even Godfather. I mean, he didn't like doing it, and with good cause. I mean, those guys, him and Val, especially Godfather, they gave up a lot of merchandise money. Godfather was moving a ton of merchandise back then, so they gave up a lot of merchandise money. And I don't know if the company helped them out, on the other side of that, or how that worked. Everybody's deal is kind of different, but yeah, I mean, I can see why. He went from being one of the, if not the most popular guy in the company, to the Good Father. So, yeah, I mean, I never for a minute, didn't understand why he didn't want to do it. But with that said, I mean, he jumped right in. I mean, we all did. Because if we get it over and we keep it going, we're making money. So that's the bottom line. But yeah, Godfather's was probably the worst. I say I don't know about it, but Ivory really jumped into it. Val did too. Everybody did. And me and Godfather got the tag team belts out of it, and I wound up riding with Godfather and Teddy Long, so I made a couple of new friends, and I've kept them over the years, and so for me it was a good experience. I know that some of the other guys didn't like it, and I understand why.
So, following the end of Right to Censor, you actually were able to team up with someone who people now view as the greatest of all time, and that was, of course, John Cena. Now, obviously, it did not last very long, but I want to know your experience with working with someone like John Cena, and did you actually develop a good relationship with him backstage?
Yeah, actually, I'd met him when we go out to the West Coast. He would usually do dart matches, and I mean, I think he was actually at the time, I think he was working for is it XPW out there in California, Bassman, or I think maybe. But yeah, I mean, the physique was he was actually doing competitive bodybuilding at the time, so he was in even better shape, than he was later on. Then, and his work kept getting better. And then I ran into him when I came down to OVW for the second time. I ran into him down there, and I'd seen the physique, and I'd seen him work. Now, and he seemed like he was, real humble, and he asked questions. He did all things right. So I got down there to OVW, and I heard him on the stick, on the mic, and I said, "Yeah, God, he's got it." And yeah, it was just to me, it was just a question of time. Of course, you don't ever know. I mean, they've dropped the ball on people before, but I had a sneaking suspicion he was going to do okay, and I guess I was right. But as far to work with, man, he was an absolute pleasure to work with. It was fun. I'd always been cast as a killer, and I think that's how Vince liked me. He liked me as a big killer. So it was something different for me, and I had fun doing it. And I know John had fun with the rap. So yeah, it was a good time. I wish it had lasted longer, but he didn't need me to to propel him. So yeah, I knew and I saw him backstage a few times, and I saw the relationship that him and Vince had already had just at that, 'cause he was only there maybe 3-4 months, and I saw the way Vince talked to him, and I said, yeah, they getting ready to really push him. So yeah, couldn't happen to a nicer guy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so this isn't one of my questions, but I think since we're on the topic of Cena, should he have one more run to finally break Ric Flair's record, or you think Flair should hold that? Well, I mean they're currently tied, but do you think his record should not be broken?
Well, I don't, I don't know. I guess I could go either way on that. But do I think he should have another run? Absolutely. I would love to see John Cena one more time before he hangs it up. I would love to. I wish he would hang around long enough. I have one son in NXT, and hopefully I got another one. Not too far behind him. But I'd love it if he. I'd love for my two sons or even one of them to have the chance to work with him. I think that would be really cool, or to work with any of those guys. It wasn't just Cena down there. When I went back down there, that was the golden class. Cena, Batista, Brock, Shelton, Charlie Haas, but he was actually in God, what was Les Thatcher's? It it wasn't Ohio Valley. It was Heartland Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Heartland. Charlie and his brother were actually in the developmental up for Les Thatcher, but it was only a few miles up the road, so they would come down and work. But all those guys were down there working. So yeah, I would love it if my boys got to work with some of those guys.
So it's actually good that you brought up your son, because that actually fits to my next question, is that your son Brooks Jensen is actually a superstar in NXT, formerly of Briggs and Jensen, along with Fallon Henley. So with all the work you've done in the business, the stories we hear from backstage that some superstars don't want out of the stories, what was your reaction when your son actually wanted to kind of follow your footsteps and become a professional wrestler?
I knew he would. I knew he watched it and loved it from a young age. I knew he would probably try it. I don't, I guess the current state of the business, the way WWE does business nowadays, is a lot more family friendly, I guess, as to what it was in the past. So, it's like comparing apples to oranges. Would I want my sons doing this back when I did it? I don't know. Things were a little more free back then, but I feel more comfortable with them doing it now. Just that, there's more of I guess there's a tighter rein on them. They keep a little closer eye on them, and a lot of these the younger kids hopefully have watched some of the mistakes that guys from my generation and generations before that have made. Not just lifestyle choices, but money wise. I mean, that's a big thing. It's you hate to put years into this business and then come out of it with nothing, especially what you do to your body. So, JBL was somebody long ago that said that they needed to do financial classes, with along with the wrestling, along with the promos and the wrestling and all the other stuff that they teach. And I actually think that they somewhat do that now. They give them a class on, hey, don't go out and blow every bit of your money on rims and new rides. So I think the business is as a father, it's a lot more compatible to what I would like to see nowadays with having a son in it. But yeah, I was a fan of the Von Erichs growing up, and I was the only child. I didn't have any brothers or sisters, and that was one thing that I always wanted. So, I never pushed Ben, and I've never pushed Zach, but I was there if they wanted to do it. I told them I'd help them and, do whatever I could to help them. So, yeah, I just always thought that would be cool to have a brother and sister and to be able to do something like that together. So hopefully they get a chance.
So this is my final question before I hand it off to Marcus. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time out to come and hang out with us and, of course, talk some good stuff. But so my last question, put yourself back into your prime just for one last time, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And let's talk today's current wrestling. Any promotion that you can think of. So pick one superstar across all promotions that you would love to have that one final match with before you call it.
Man, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I always wanted to work Mike Awesome, and I got a chance. We actually did get to work one time in WWE on Velocity, I think it was, and then we got a chance to tag a good bit over in Japan. But I always wanted to work him because I thought that he kind of was a high flyer for a big guy, and I always thought it would be a good matchup. So, if anybody today, with that in mind, I would love to work with Luchasaurus. I'd love to work with that guy. In my prime, I would love to work with him. Comparably about the same size, and he moves pretty good for a big guy, and I enjoy watching him work. Yeah, probably him.
Nice.
All right, let's talk about some of your early days in your career. No, let's talk about the days when you were known as the Punisher. So at one point in your career, you're mostly in tag teams most of your career. You teamed up with Rick Savage at one time. Y'all were called the Body Count down in
Yes.
NCW before y'all took it to Jim Cornette's company, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where
Yes.
you also played a bodyguard for him, where y'all were feuding with guys like Boo Bradley, or people knew him as Balls Mahoney, or the
Yep.
Bullet, also known as Bullet Bob Armstrong. And you've also got to team up with Tommy Rich at one
Yep.
point. So what was it like in those early days as the Punisher?
Oh, it was great. It was, looking back on it, I tell young guys all the time, when this is all said and done, you're going to look back and see that some of the best times was when you broke and just, barely getting from town to town. And that's what we were doing. But, man, we were having such a good time. Me and Rick Savage run across each other in North Georgia. And we worked together all up through the Carolinas and North Georgia and Tennessee. Um, we had a tag team called Body Count. We were, but I think, Rick had some back problems. He worked in Global. I can't remember his partner's name. They did kind of a biker, the Hard Riders or something like that. But he worked down there too, and so he'd been bumping for a while, so he had some trouble with his back. But I went over to Smoky Mountain and Cornette. I was Cornette's bodyguard, and that was when he had the militia. It was me, Tommy Rich. Originally, it was me, Tommy Rich, Buddy Landell, and Terry Gordy, who was another one of my heroes growing up. I enjoyed working with him so much, along with Tommy, and Buddy. But got to work with him. Oh, it was great, man. Smoky Mountain was what I thought wrestling would be. I never saw it as big as WWE. I thought that's what wrestling was when I was growing up watching Georgia Champ, and that's really what it was. Cornette ran the territory. We worked from North Georgia all the way up into Kentucky, over to West Virginia, down into the Carolinas. So we were working 4 or 5 nights a week, and then you'd get the indie stuff off the Smoky Mountain television, as long as Cornette was cool with it, as long as it wasn't Terry Landell. uh, you could go work that and make a little money on the off days. So, it was great. And, and learning from Cornette, it was, and he continued to help me throughout my career. It wasn't just, Smoky Mountain. He helped get me the shot in, at WWE. And once I was there, he always looked out for me and took care of me. And then, he introduced me to Jim Ross. And so I got to have a good relationship with Jim Ross, which is good. He was the one writing the checks. And, I tried to, as much as I never saw this as a job, I tried to look at it, from a employer standpoint of, you want the guys to show up on time, do what they're asked to do, and not bitch about it. Stay out of trouble as much as possible on the road. So I always tried to approach it like that. I tried to be on time. I tried to do whatever they wanted to, and JR and Jimmy appreciated that. I don't know how much talent I had, but I had a whole lot of no quit, and I had a lot of athletic ability and a lot of no quit, and I just wasn't going to take no for an answer.
Yeah. So you even had a short appearance in ECW. You were in a tag team with a guy by the name of Billy Black. Y'all were the Dark Raiders.
Yes.
You were known as Stud. Y'all had a couple of matches, including at the time the Eliminators, who were once ECW tag team champions. So tell us, what was it like working with Paul Heyman?
So this was after Smoky Mountain, and I knew Billy Black. Billy Black was in a tag team with Joel Deaton over in Japan, and I think Paul E was wanting them, but Joel couldn't do it at the time. So Billy had been working with me on the Indies for a while in Georgia and the Southeast. So he plugged me to Paul and said, "Yeah, bring him up." So they flew us up, and they liked it. I didn't have a name. I was the Punisher in Smoky Mountain, and took old Scorpio, I think, was help. Everybody helped up there. All the the Dudleys, everybody had a job. So Scorpio was kind of going back and forth with Paul, and he said call you Stud. So right off the bat, I said, hell yeah, I like it. But we had I think we had a house show. And I think me and Billy did a handicap match with it was either Ian or Axel Rotten. His tag team partner, something got held up in traffic anyway, so we did a little, quick DQ match, and then we had the Eliminators on TV, and of course, Billy Black was a heck of a wrestler. If you don't know him, go look him up. Really watch his stuff over in Japan. He was very athletic, do stuff that didn't look like he could do. And so I pulled out every trick, every leg drop, everything off the top rope that I could come up with. And Paulie liked it, and he was going to have us back. But in between him having us back, I got a contract offer from WWE. So, and to be honest with you, I really had to think about it because I didn't know at the time. I learned after being in WWE that Vince really likes to make his own, or Vince liked to make his own superstars. He liked to take somebody from the ground up, give them the gimmick, make them who they are. You look at all the, Boss Ray Traylor, Big Boss Man. He was very proud of making those gimmicks. But at the same time, I thought, well, but I could make a name for myself over here. And, you got to think at the time, WCW was still going. All Japan was, good. New Japan was good. You could still make money in Puerto Rico. There were several options. So I said, if I make a name for myself here, I got a little more bargaining power. But at the same time, when it says WWE on the top corner of the check there, it's hard to turn that down. So I wound up going with WWE.
All right. So a lot of generations today will, of course, always remember you in the Right to Censor, but I feel like a lot of people in my generation are always going to remember you in the Truth Commission. Yeah. So that faction, I think y'all were like some like officers from like South Africa or soldiers hailing from South Africa. Y'all started it in USWA before y'all came into the WWF in 1997. It was around summer '97, and you were known as Recon. Talk about the faction, and then you even were in a tag team, just the Truth Commission, with yourself and I think it was Sniper. It was Sniper. Yeah, I was going to say Sniper.
Yeah, it was Sniper. So I signed with WWE right after that ECW. I think I signed with them in April or May, and they sent me down to USWA, worked with Lawler, and I've been down there for a little bit, and I was home for about a month over the holidays, I think, and I got a call. They flew me up to Stamford for a costume fitting, and it was a green shirt, and I saw the drawing. I think I still got it somewhere. Back then, I guess they had a kind of a separate. It was in the fashion district downtown there in New York City. They actually had a design studio where all the gimmicks were created, and they had pictures of Undertaker stuff. I remember Ahmed Johnson, a bunch of his stuff. But they had a drawing for it, and I saw that it was military. So so I found out later that Bret Hart had went over to South Africa. I think this is how the story went. Bret went to South Africa to do an episode of Sinbad and met a guy named Robin Smith. Robin Smith was an actor over in South Africa, and he had a part on Sinbad. And so him and Bret just got talking, and I think maybe that the actual idea for the Truth Commission came up over there. I think Robin had told me later. But Bret came back over and pitched it to Vince, and that was right in Vince's wheelhouse. 3 big guys, military outfits, that kind of thing. And at the time, think about it at the time, that was just the kind of gimmicks that WWE had. So they got all of us together up in Stamford. It was originally me and Kurgan and Tank, which was Mike Halleck, who just passed away recently. That was the original 3 in Memphis. So they brought us up to Stamford. We worked on some tag team stuff, and we learned how to. Robin Smith, the original commandant, had actually been a soldier in the South African Army, so he taught us how to salute and march and do all that. And he sent us down to Memphis, and we worked down there for maybe 6 months. And they called us up, but when they called us up, they didn't call up Mike. They left him in Memphis, and then we met Luke Poirier, who was Sniper. Kurgan already knew him, and from Canada. He was from Montreal, but he worked over in Germany for years as Rambo. He was a big, huge name in Germany. Worked as Rambo, and came. I think Owen had met him over there, and Owen said, "Hey, what about this guy?" But apparently, Brett knew Kurgan from Canada. I think Robert had been out to his camp a few times, and he was looking through some of the photos of some of the guys that wasn't doing anything. I was on there, and at the time I had a crew cut, and so he said, "Well, he looks like a soldier, so let's put him in it." So that's how I got in it. But they sent us to Memphis. They called us up, and we it was right at the time of the I think it was '97 Survivor Series gang warfare. So the buildup was for the gang warfare, so we fit right into that. We had us, the disciples, the bequeastas, we had the nation.
Los Boricuas.
Yes, Miguel and all those guys, Savio. So we had several factions at that time, which led up to the Survivor Series in Montreal there. And then after that, I think, even before that, the commandant, the original commandant, had some visa trouble, so he had to go home. And they brought in Don Callis, and from that point, we kind of started going in a different direction, which I thought was great because Don didn't really fit the he had long hair and he didn't fit the military mold, and he took a chance and wore the leather jacket out there one night, and when they saw it, they said, "Yeah, let's go." And I really thought we had more legs going in that direction because the way that he was taking it, or the way that we were taking it was, it was kind of a David Koresh kind of cult leader kind of thing, and that was still kind of fresh in people's minds at that time. So, but yeah, I mean, it run its course. I think me and Luke, me and Sniper, did a couple of tag team matches as Armageddon. They wanted us to come up with a new tag team name, and so we did a couple of matches at that, and then we sat home for a little while, to be honest, till I went back with Big Boss Man.
Yeah, so you came back into the WWF in 2000 with a new name as Bull Buchanan. This was kind of where it kind of like took your career to a whole nother level. You teamed up with a guy like Boss Man, a veteran like him. God rest his soul. You got to make your WrestleMania debut with the Boss Man. Y'all teamed up and took on D'Lo Brown and the Godfather, and y'all won.
Yep.
And then when you went to the Right to Censor, you did manage to win the WWE Tag Team Championships with the Godfather in Houston, Texas, by the way, on Monday Night Raw against the Hardy Boys. So you got to win your tag titles against one of the greatest tag teams of all time, or people will declare one of the best tag team of all time. So tell us about Boss Man, like how friendship and everything, and working together as partners, and then you winning a tag team championship.
It was great. Me and Ray had never met. Once again, he was another guy that I looked up to because he was from around here. I thought, well, man, if he could do it, maybe I could do it. So he was one of the guys I looked up to in the business, and then I found out. So I was off the road for Truth Commission, and Jimmy at that time had just went down to Louisville to do OVW with Danny Davis, and he called me, and he told me, "Hey, I got a new name, new gimmick. Let's try this and see what happens." And Bull Buchanan was born. The gimmick was a little different. I was a inmate down there in Louisville for him. I was an inmate from the Correctional Institute. Kenny Bolin managed me. But when they brought me up, I was with Boss Man. And it was like, we'd known each other forever, which everybody that knows Ray says that. But we got to be friends real quick and, started riding together, of course, and started hanging out outside of work. He only lived about 30 miles. Our families started getting together, and our girls grew up together. And so it was really cool. He was the nicest, sweetest guy in the world. You'll never hear a bad word about Ray Traylor. I've never heard one in all these years. It was just such a shame, to lose him as young as we did. But, man, he's so underrated. If you go back and watch, I mean, you got to imagine, in that big run he had in the original Boss Man, that big run he had with Hogan and all those guys, man, that guy was 350 pounds. And Hogan suplexed him off the top of the cage, and just the things he would do. Go watch him and Kurt Hennig, who they were great friends. But go watch their matches, man. He does stuff that a guy his size, there's no way he should be able to do. So, I mean, it was great. And I was actually kind of, I was really disappointed when I found out they were breaking this up, because I thought that, we were going to be a tag team from there on out. But Ray being Ray, he could, don't be mad about it. No, they got big things, in mind for you. So he was having to go off the road and get his knee scoped and a couple other things. And at that point in his career, especially when he came back from WCW, he had told me that Vince called him and said, "Hey, I want you to finish up with me where you started." And he had a really, really good relationship with Vince. I don't know if a lot of people know about. Vince really liked Ray because Ray was just one of those salt of the earth people. He was down home as he could be, but he could talk stock market with you at the same time. So Vince really loved Ray and always took care of him. But it was great. And then like I said, so Ray went off the road, and I was doing some single stuff, and getting some good wins. But I was just kind of floating between rides. I rode with Ron and John, a lot of the acolytes. We were friends, and we'd jump in with different people sometimes. But Michael Hayes, who a guy I knew for a while, even before I got up there, I'd met him down south here in the Indies, and he said, "Hey, he came to me, and I was riding by myself or just floating around. He said, it's always been my experience that riding with your partner seems to, get you to gel a little more." So, and I said, "Yeah, I really thought about it. I knew that Godfather and Terry rode together, so I kind of said, hey, would you mind if I jumped in?" Of course, he was like, "Oh, absolutely not." So I jumped in, and we had a great time. We rode together, till right there till after we finished the gimmick up. Me, him, and Teddy was riding partners, which was great. We had a great time, and it's fun doing it with somebody one of your friends, I guess. So and that they never take that away from you. Once you win some gold up there, you got it forever.
Yeah, but it's still crazy though. Like I swore maybe you and Boss Man had at least one reign together, but I was wrong. And I thought during that singles run, I thought you captured the hardcore title once or twice. Maybe you challenged for it, but you didn't beat Crash Holly or Hardcore Holly or whoever had the title.
Yeah, there was. I mean, Ray told me in the office. They said, "Hey, we want to push you as a singles," but that thing with the right Censor came along, and they needed bodies, and I guess I was a good fit. Coming from the prison guard kind of gimmick, it just kind of fit right in with the whole right to censor ideal. It was easy for me. I was already a jerk. I was already a bad guy, so it wasn't that hard for me just to transition over to that. For the other guys, Val and Godfather, like I said, they were some of the most popular guys on the roster. So, a little different from them, but yeah, we made it work.
I got to throw this in real quick. You got to do a segment. You got to work with The Rock one time. I remember you and Boss Man did a steel cage handicap match with The Rock to avoid getting him a title shot against Triple H. And you got to take a rock bottom in a steel cage with The Rock. What was it like working with old Dwayne?
So when you signed with WWE back then, actually, when I signed with WWE, James J. Dillon was still head of talent relations. He's actually the one that gave me the tour. They would fly you up to Stanford, and you would take the tour, and then you would sit down with Vince and talk to him and let him get to know you a little bit. Kind of just throw a few things around. So Rocky was up there that same day that I was. So we basically signed at the same time. He sent us down to Memphis at the same time. And I think my first match in Memphis on TV that morning was me and Tony Falk against Rocky and Bart Sawyer. They had already won. They got there about week or two before I did, and I'd already won the tag belts down there. So me and Tony Falk wrestled, and we rode together down there. He would, if you need a place to stay, he had a little spot there in downtown, and same thing. It's so funny because they had that little that dust up they had a while back. I think they've worked everything out now, but it's weird because how similar Cena and Rocky are. We were all broke. Nobody was rich, and nobody came from money. We were all struggling just to get a start in this business. And even as the last few times I've seen them, they're still the humble guys that I knew when we were all scrounging for a dollar down in Memphis or Louisville or wherever. Rocky was living in he had a bed. I don't even think he had a TV there when he first got down there. He had a bed and a couch, and if you need a place to stay, I slept on his couch a few nights. He's that same guy. So, it's nice to see people that are genuine people. It's nice to see them make it and get the kind of success that they have. But it was great, working with him. I remember it was weird because, I'd been in the business probably maybe a year or 2 or 3 before Rocky had, but he got to the main roster before I did with the boss man thing. And I was up there with the Truth Commission. But when I got there with the boss man thing, right before that cage match, I remember talking to him in the hallway, and I guess he could tell I was a little nervous. And he said, "Hey, we're back down in Memphis, man. It's same deal." And I was like, "You know what? You're right." So yeah, it was extremely cool. Because 3 weeks before that, I was down in Louisville, plugging away, wondered when I was going to get the call back. And 3 weeks later, I'm in. I want to say it was maybe Miami, or I think it was Miami, because that's don't ever expect to win in your hometown. Well, at least back then, if you went to Ron Simmons hated going to Atlanta, Georgia, because he knew he was putting somebody over that night. It just, I don't know, in their home, I'm pretty sure it was Miami. So, of course, Rocky's hometown, so to speak. And, we really, Hunter came in after we got done and laid him out and busted him up. And, yeah, good business.
Okay, this will be my last question. I guess you could call it a personal question, because I've always wanted to know if it was right the whole time, the way I've been calling it. So I went to my very first Raw in 2000. It was actually the go home show before SummerSlam 2000. So we were in Lafayette, Louisiana. I remember y'all interfered in a match. Well, the match was already over. It was Kane and Rikishi. Rikishi won by DQ because Kane hit him with a chair. Then Scotty and Brian were coming in the aid of Rikishi because they were too cool. And then on the corner of the rampway, here comes you, Stevie, and the Good Father. When it was just a 3-man, no Val Venus yet, no Ivory yet. Y'all, because y'all about to later find out y'all going in a 6-man tag with Too Cool at SummerSlam.
Yep.
You did a leg drop where you were like kicking your feet up in the air like you were on fire, and then you did your leg drop. I think King called it the Bullfly. Is that what it was called, or was that an error?
That was King. That was just him ad-libbing. I don't even know if there was a name for it. I do remember that though. But yeah, that was Lawler. That was just him ad-libbing.
Oh, I've been calling it that for years. I was like, is that even a real thing, a bullfly? Like, I was Googling bullflies. I'm like, 11-year-old.
There actually are flies that land on bulls. So I guess there actually is a bullfly.
I just remember seeing that as like an 11-year-old. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that big man could do a leg drop like that. And then the way you moved your legs, it was like, he called it the bullfly. And I've been wanting to know that when I found out we were getting you on. I was like, okay, good. I could see if that was a real name for it or not.
No, that's just something Lawler came up with on the fly. Yeah, like I said, I was blessed. I'm pretty sure-footed and pretty good athlete. So that kind of helped. That kind of got me the job in Smoky Mountain too. I had a match I was on TV in North Georgia. They had a small wrestling program, about 3 hour, and Smoky Mountain was on that block of wrestling with us. So we promoted their show when they came to Georgia. and I got a chance to wrestle in front of Cornette, and I did the leg drop, and I put everything I had into getting up there. And when I come back, of course, I'd gotten to be friends with New Jack Mustafa and Ricky and Robert, all the people that were in Smoky Mountain, Bob Armstrong, the Armstrongs. So they were plugging for me. So Cornette made a point to come out there and watch the match, and he saw the leg drop, and I got back, and he said, I ain't never seen nobody do it like that except for Bobby. And I think that's kind of what got over with him. But yeah, like I said, I don't know how much talent I had, but just a whole lot of no quit and a little bit of athletic ability. And I just, like I tell the young guys, don't take no for an answer.
Well, hey, this was fun. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah.
But
me and
Dylan want to know, all the times you came down and wrestled in Louisiana, what do you like to eat down here? What do you think of our food?
Oh, crawfish.
All right.
The roe boil. Oh, we actually had some guys come up from down there. I think they came up from Houma, Louisiana.
Oh yeah,
and,
yes.
They came up for a church thing we had, and we did a low country boil, and oh man, yeah, I loved it down there. We only came down, we would come down to Lafayette, or we'd come down to big towns, but after I left there, I actually there was a guy named Kevin North that was running shows down there, and we were coming down and doing them. So we hit a lot of the smaller towns, and actually got to enjoy, get out a little more than what we did when we were with New York. So yeah, I love it down there.
Oh yeah, well, that's good. I've always wanted to know, because everyone talks about our food is so good or too spicy, but we now know from you that you love it.
Yeah.
Did they have to teach you how to peel the crawfish? You already knew how to do it.
I figured it out. They didn't have to tell me. Shoot, I'm a big guy. I like to eat. I figured it out.
Hell yeah.
I just started pulling and.
Well, thank you again. It was so fun having you on. Let them know where they can find you on all social media before we close it out.
Bull Buchanan face page. Go to Bullpen Pro Wrestling is my new page. It's a promotion I'm starting. June 8th is our first show here in Bowden, Georgia. Hold on, I'll give you a sneak peek of the Bowden High School gym before it transforms into the Bullpen. This is where I had my retirement show in 2014. So we're starting to run. Me and Tom Araquazo. You can find us on WGTV. He does the local high school sports here in Carroll County in the West Georgia area. So me and him are hooking up, and we're gonna run some wrestling.
Nice. So Dylan, you want to add anything before we close out?
Oh no, not much than what I said before. Thank you again for coming on. It was a great conversation, and thanks for taking the time out to come hang out with us.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All righty, man. Well, thank y'all again, and thank you for everyone tuning in. Y'all know where to find us on all social media platforms. World Elite Podcast is at World Elite Pod on Twitter. Also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You know where to find us. But thank you again, Mr. Bull Buchanan. It was a pleasure talking to you. And good luck. And I hope the show goes well.
Hope so. We'll either go good or we'll be broke in 6 months. So I'll let you know.
All right. Well, thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.